Hello and welcome to another video from the Fantasy Legion. Alan Sean back again.
It's good to be back out.
Got quite an exciting list to do. We've both set ourselves a challenge of who we rank and in what order for the top 10 running backs for the year.
It's going to be an exciting list because, we're going to differ here, I think, quite a lot. It's going to be very interesting. And anybody that's been listening to us is going to know that I've been very fair here. I have put all the running backs on this list that I think that I would pick at a certain price. But I'm going to explain in certain occasions where I'm definitely not going to take them and the reasons why. But I'm just trying to be honest with you. This is my top 10 list. It's genuinely my list. It's just that some players I won't pay their price for. But everybody's different. We all look at things differently. So, interestingly, who do you have at number one?
Well, it's no real big surprise. You got to have McCaffrey because he's such a dual threat. Anybody that can put up the numbers he has in the sort of last year or two, you can't ignore it. And he's doing it in a poor team, so you can't even use that they're a poor team against him because he is basically the whole offense. I went to see him last year, play against the Texans, and he was head and shoulders above anyone on the field.
I mean, he's not my number one. He's not my number one, but he is my number two. Okay, I'm going to be maybe the only person on the planet who thinks this way. That's fine. I just think there are bigger risks. There's some risks around him this season. I've highlighted these previously. I think the sheer workload that he's had and the truth of the trends in the NFL. Now, he may be the exception. He may be a player that goes on 3, 4, 5, 6 years constantly producing at the highest level. And that I can totally say, well done. I've no problem. It's just that I know, looking at the trends and looking ahead, this is the year to start thinking there is some changes afoot now where you would worry about the volume of work he's had. If you were being honest, I'm not denying you've got to take him up high. Of course you do. That's why he's number two.
Of course you worry about the breakdown because he has been the offense for the last 2 years. I mean, he's been involved in nearly every play, or it seems like it.
But he's a top pick. He's a top pick.
You can't ignore the numbers he puts up. He's head and shoulders above anybody else in the numbers he puts up. So
that is the
why
reason
he has to be number one.
That's the reason why I worry. If I had, thankfully, I don't get them very often, thank God. If I had the number one in fantasy football, it is very difficult to be the person that turns this guy down because you'd
be an idiot to be honest, on trade value alone. Because
I have got
who you wanted to and something else.
I've got a player that I've put at number one that I believe is going to end up being the number one this season in fantasy football in all formats, and that is Saquon Barkley. I believe that he bounces back to the top of this list for this year. And I think, that is what I will do. If I was picking number one, I would buck the trend and Christian McCaffrey would fall to two. And that is just the way I feel about it. I want Saquon Barkley. Now, if I think I'm in a league where I can trade back 2 or 3 spots and get his services, which is maybe possible.
Anybody's going to take McCaffrey over Barkley.
Well, yes,
99% of people.
But if I can be comfortable trading back and get something out of a deal, I'll take that deal every time for those reasons. But in some leagues where your draft spot is your draft spot, that is what I will do.
I mean, Barkley's already been injured. He's on a poor team. So, I mean, I don't even have him at 2 because I think although he's probably the second most talented running back, I just think the team's poor. He's already coming off an injury.
I think
still got something to prove.
You say that the team is poor, but they're certainly an improving team. I think the Giants are definitely trending the right direction, aren't they?
Are they?
Yeah, I think so.
Where did they come last year then? Bearing in mind, Washington Redskins were also in the division. They were also garbage as well.
Yeah, but they're trending in the right direction. They've got a quarterback that definitely played above
Daniel Jones, but
played above his numbers. They've got a running back that was injured for most of the year. Some issues there, and they're definitely improving the right direction. I think
most of the year. How can you put him at 1? It's ridiculous.
And if we're going to make an argument about poor teams, Saquon Barkley produced some great numbers on a poor team just 2 seasons ago. I do think there's nothing to say.
It's interesting that the top 2 in consensus are on 2 pretty poor teams because normally you think the game script is against them.
Well, often
because they're 3 down backs and talented.
Yeah, well, both are very talented and are on the field for most of the snaps. Particularly in Christian McCaffrey's case, he's an exceptional player. He was on the field for 99 point whatever it was snaps. I mean, it's unheard of. That's the that's the thing where, he may just be this durable. And if he is, what can you say? It's just, I just think, looking at, in my view, it's just a gut. You get this gut feeling sometimes. You've got to see the trend coming. I just think Saquon you don't mind either. These are great decisions to have.
Oh, yeah. You'd be happy to get any in any draft. Yeah.
I'm happy to get either of these guys and build a team off them, frankly. But I just prefer, from a personal point of view, trying to think what will happen. I think Saquon bounces back to be the number one in fantasy this year. And then the debate becomes more interesting next year when we start weighing up some other players who lower down this list who may be challenging these guys this year.
I mean, Saquon's very talented, but he worries me. I've got him down at 3.
Okay. Who'd you have at 2? I'm just curious.
Ezekiel Elliott. He's proven it's a better offense, I think.
Yeah, I got Zeke at 3. So I think if we're looking at it logically, the pair of us here like all 3 of these guys. Why do you like?
But I have McCaffrey miles ahead of the other 2 as well, because he's a massive dual threat, and he's proved he can do it. So and people know it's coming, and they still can't stop it. So
just for interest, because obviously I've got Ezekiel Elliott at 3. Why Zeke at 2? What do you feel he offers there? Is it just the consistency in fantasy?
It's a better offense. Yeah, it's a better offense. I think he's more consistent. I think there's not a lot between them. I'd be happy with either. And it would be a tough decision on draft day if they were both still there at, 2.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can appreciate your pain.
It would be a gut feeling on day. I just think better offense. He's been there and done it, Zeke. I mean, they're both good running backs. I mean, maybe... I think if it was full point PPR, I might go Barkley because he catches more and he's better in the passing game. Zeke's not so.
I think Ezekiel Elliott proved last year again, and
he's all right.
I think he's proven that he's capable in the passing game. So
he's not going to catch anywhere near as many as McCaffrey. So in PPR, you really can't turn down McCaffrey at 1. You got. Even if you think you might get in,
well, it's a different ball game because
you've got to go chips all in, mate. You can't worry about breakdown. You've got to go for the bloke who's going to win you the league.
Well, I was just going to explain that actually. I mean, if we were talking here, because again the running back list can vary slightly. If we said, okay, this might be standard half point, that's kind of how I feel. If you said to me, okay, it's full point PPR, would that change your view here on these top 3? It does, because I would move Christian McCaffrey up to number 1, Saquon 2, and Ezekiel Elliott 3. So that's what would happen on my list straight away.
Yeah.
So that's just based on that change. So I'm just being honest. That's how I feel about them. I mean, they're all 3 of these guys. I have no problem taking up any of these 3 guys, and there's no way that Christian McCaffrey would fall to 3.
He won't fall to 2, mate.
Yeah, I know.
Unless you're drafting.
I know. Unless I'm drafting. But look, let me be honest. He ain't falling outside the top 2. So it's as simple as that. Either of these guys. So nice and simple, I say. Okay, number 4.
Number 3, actually, for you. I've got. You got Elliott at 3, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got 3. Who have you got at 3 then?
I had Barkley at 3 and Elliott at 2. So who you got at 4? It's a bit more interesting now. It's a bit more wide.
Yeah, well, it is. This has been a more recent. I've kind of fallen back in love with the player at 4. So it's more a question of you fall out of love with a player. You think about it, and a couple of people talk to you. I got a couple of people who watch the show, and then they talk to us offline, and I like the fact that we go through these kind of similar debates we have, and they go, oh, you got to think, why have you placed this player here? Don't you realise this, or haven't you seen the fact that they brought this guy in? So I've had to reevaluate, and I've put Alvin Kamara back up the list now to number 4 on my list.
I've got him at 4 as well.
I think because of who works alongside him at running back and some of the changes behind the scenes, I'm more comfortable taking him at 4, and I do feel that New Orleans Saints are in a great position this year to have a very high octane offense as they always do. And I think last year was a blip in the Alvin Kamara.
Well, he carried injuries all year, so if you look for a dip in form and you look for excuses. If you can't find one, that's a worry. But if he had neck and back and thigh strains.
Well, he played with the injuries, and he just was a bit of a shell of himself. But this has been very highlighted to me about some of the issues he was going through, and I taking that into effect, I have to sort of say, well, actually, the guy played with tremendous toughness and still played. So for those reasons, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and put Alvin Kamara back at number 4, and I would take him at number 4.
Yeah, I would as well, especially in
No,
PPR. It'd be
I
a
wouldn't.
no-brainer.
Yeah, I wouldn't hesitate at this stage. I'd just do it now. It doesn't bother me the way it did a few weeks back. Doesn't concern me anymore.
No, I'd definitely take him at 4. Who have you got at 5 then?
Well, it gets more interesting here at 5. Big concerns at 5, but it is the guy who I would take. He was one of our breakout stars for last year on our bold prediction list, and that's Dalvin Cook. I would still put him here at 5.
I'll put him at 5 as well.
Very hard pressed to not put him at 5. Yes, there are holdout concerns, but we've always said on this show, always, that with Dalvin Cook, there are a few other guys, and I don't care what size league you are. You've got two strategies you either play here. If you believe in Dalvin Cook, you go after Dalvin Cook and you don't worry about anything else. If, like me, you think that there is some injury history here and there are some risks, then you can also try to target Mattison. And Mattison has, and rightly so, I mean, again, this holdout really illustrates this. In a few leagues, we've both done a similar strategy, I've noticed. I've got Cook in some leagues, and where I own Cook, I have Mattison. And that is proving to be a very sensible strategy moving in towards the fantasy season. Now, Dalvin Cook was exceptional when he played last year. I know he got hurt, but you can't predict that. You know, it's very hard to predict that. He only got hurt after week 13. He was amazing up to week 13, absolutely amazing. And he finished in the top 5. What would he have finished if he'd have played all 16 games? It would have been very interesting. Certainly, certainly would have moved up a little bit higher on the list here.
And they're going to be a run-first team. The thing that worries me about him, there's a lot of red flags. I've got him at 5 as well, but if he's still holding out, I ain't touching him.
Oh, it's a different ball game.
Even though he looks positive on the talks, they said they're going to offer him a deal. I ain't touching him because you can't have a Melvin Gordon you had last year at 5.
If there's any, particularly this year, if this is still going out, if this is getting like within a 3-4 weeks of the season starting and you're drafting and he's still on a holdout, I'm not touching him at 5. It's not happening. I'd rather go for
especially
Mattison.
With the injury history. Plus, they've lost Diggs as well, so the offense has taken a hit.
Yeah, well, I think it benefits Cook exactly for those reasons as well for this year. I mean, that's why I think at 5 he's great value, assuming he plays. He's brilliant value, and he can do it in both formats, standard and PPR formats. He's going to be excellent. That's why he's high up the list.
Okay, so yeah, it's a proviso that he's not holding out, but he's at 5 if all is well.
But you're now paying that premium for his services. This is a guy who will go high in all draft board formats, so there's no doubt.
He probably will go. You know, you could argue Michael Thomas, but you know, apart from that, he's probably 5 or 6, isn't he?
Well,
right,
it's
number 6 then. Who have you got number 6?
Well, I had to put Derrick Henry here.
Yeah, so have I.
I can't not put him on the list high up. I even considering PPR formats, I'd still put him at 6. I just think it's a player capable. You know, in the modern NFL, if you look at a player capable of 2,000 yards, can he do that in a season? What on that offense, the way that they tend to play, they can. The question that I would have though over Tennessee was that lightning in a bottle that we saw. Was that just everything? Was that the perfect one-off season? Everything fell perfectly for him with Ryan Tannehill coming in. Did everything just gel then? And will teams catch up? Will that all change? It's a question.
I don't know. They've been sort of pounding it with Henry for a few years now, and he is quite hard to stop, especially at home.
Oh, very much, yeah. I mean, I can't argue with him this high up the list. I must be honest, though, and say that I have other candidates, because somebody could easily take Derrick Henry at 4, as they could easily take him here at 6 on my list.
Exactly.
Without a shadow of a doubt. I think 6 is the kind of lower end of his value. That's about as far back as you're not going to get him at 7 or 8. That's for sure. I've
just never taken to him. I don't know why. Every time I pick him, he's been a disaster.
Well, I find
he's not so good in PPR either. So for PPR,
I find him a little bit. It's a little. I mean, it's really harsh to say this, but I always find when I've owned him. And I haven't owned him a lot. It's just been a bit inconsistent. Maybe that's all changed, and because I'm not focused on him as much, and we have seen a big improvement in him in the last, year or so. But I can't not put him at 6. I'm glad it's quite interesting. Agreed on these 3. I think 7 is the moment we should see some big changes.
Okay,
who do you have at 7?
7, just because he's solid. I think he's definitely going to be the starting back. And he's performed well even in a poor team. He's done it last couple of years, and that's Joe Mixon.
Interesting. Okay.
Although there's not much between the next four really for me. But Mixon, because I know he's settled. The offense can't be any worse than last year.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, and I'm going to be honest. Joe Mixon isn't in my top 10 running back list. I mean, he's just outside, if I'm honest. But these five guys from 7 to him are very interchangeable. You know, I mean, they really are that close. And I mean, it sounds like a disservice to put Joe Mixon at 11, but in truthfulness, it's who you like, and I just prefer this guy ahead of him, like I like the next guy ahead of him. And one guy on my list is very controversial ahead of him, but logical behind why I put him ahead of him. So I'll start with my number 7 as well with you. So I like your pick here, Joe Mixon. I can totally see that. But I like Josh Jacobs. I've
got him at 8.
Yeah, a bit of a man crush on this kid. I'm very impressed. I mean, he proved he could come in and handle the workload the NFL has. He didn't hit the rookie wall that I was expecting him to find. There may have been a slight slowdown, but it was a minimal slowdown. And what he did after going through what is a hard grind for any rookie coming in, I think he was exceptional. And I really like him for this year. And I think he could potentially return better value than 7. So I really like his opportunity.
I mean, I've got him at 8, so he's not far away. The thing about him that holds him back is he doesn't catch many passes. So in PPR, he's less valuable.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
They said they're going to use him more in the passing game. What they've done around the off season though doesn't show that. They've re-signed.
I don't buy. I agree with you. I don't buy that totally. I think there will be an increased workload, but I think we're talking percentages. It's a small percentage increase, not a huge jump forward. So I think, and also the game scripts will be more tricky for them to dump the ball off. You know, when you're chasing games, which is what the Raiders could be doing. I'm not saying that they may not take a step forward. It's just difficult to see it yet. It means you're going to be in games where you're 2 or 3 scores back, and you know that means you move away from the running game.
They're a young team, aren't they? They've got a lot of young players, so interesting to watch. They've certainly got the next 2 years could be very interesting with them. But
I like him, and there's nothing on the nothing on the trade. Number 8 is my player who I love for this season is Kenyon Drake. I'm all in, chips all in. Everything moves to the centre of the table with this guy for this year. I'm higher than most people on him. I think the consensus ADP is 13. I'm not. I would take him at 8, and I wouldn't hesitate taking him.
I've got him at 10. I've got him at 10. So
I love the guy's opportunity, but I use the proviso again here. The backup is critical to your success plans using Kenyon Drake. You have to have a bit of a red flag round. Yeah, he hasn't got a lot of wear and tread, but he's 26. So, but when he plays, he's electric. And I just think in our offense for this year, Kyler Murray and him were on my list from January the 1st. I was chips all in from Kenyon from very early stages this season. I've grabbed him where I can in a few dynasty leagues before everybody else has kind of called up to it a lot.
Before they got rid of David Johnson, you did, didn't you? And everyone was like, what's he doing?
I did all right. Yeah, it took risks there.
You said they were committed to him. It was quite clear they'd moved on from David Johnson and they wanted Kenyon Drake.
A lot of people didn't agree, and I get that. I totally, but I do like to look at...
They do now, mate.
I like looking at those kind of little things that others maybe don't quite see initially, but I like that because that's where the real value lies. But now you are paying for his service now. But if you can get him at 13, that's great. I'm different. Obviously, I'm different than most people. People don't have to pay this price. But that's honestly, genuinely where I'm going to take him. I'm taking him
at 10. So he's made my top 10.
And that's interesting too, because that tells us all that, because I regard your opinion on this very highly, because if you're saying 10, that tells me that others are thinking along those lines as well. You know,
I think he'll climb. I think he will climb because
I just think it's time. But you want to get the backup if you can as well, cheaper as well. Who we both like on the show, and I think he was on your sleeper list, wasn't he?
I think he's a decent player, and he's certainly a decent backup, and he did a good job when he came in. So, I think owning the pair is definitely worth it. So they look like the clear 1 and 2. So
I don't think anybody should challenge them. So I mean, I'm just being honest. I like to own that set here, but if you can't, you can't, and you move on. But there's a reasonable chance with that pair you can get the pair because most people aren't going to be paying a high premium for the backup. So there you go.
Yeah, no.
Chase, good old Chase Edmonds. I should have said that. But
Chase Edmonds, yeah.
He's a very, very good. He's a very good. We know what he can do when pressed into action, a bit like Matteson, both capable. So in case you've got any fears, it's worth owning the set. If you can't get Kenyon, get Chase Edmonds late and just see what happens, because it's a good offense to own a running back, and he could end up a running back one if anything happens to Kenyon. So worth the gamble.
Good advice, yeah. Chase Edmonds, and he's not going to be going high, so you can get him fairly cheaply.
Very cheap value, well worth a shot.
Okay, I've got so Mixon and Jacobs at 7 and 8. Who have you got at 9?
Well, the one that will surprise everybody, I think, but no surprise to anybody who saw me picking him last year, Austin Ekeler. He's got no competition. It's mental that he's still higher up the list than this.
But are the team any better? Are they?
Well, the thing is, we know what Austin Ekeler can do. He can play.
He did well.
He can play between the tackles. He's going to be the focal point of their offense. The big question mark is who's throwing the ball. Now, I think before the season starts, I just got a feeling that they're going to bring in a more seasoned quarterback, I think. And if they don't bring one in before the season starts...
They've got a seasoned quarterback. They've got Tyrod Taylor.
I mean, he's serviceable.
And they got Herbert waiting in the wings to take over probably halfway through, a bit like Baker Mayfield.
We know this. Right? We know Tyrod Taylor is a good fit for Austin Ekeler. I can say that because mobile quarterback and a running back like this will work very well together. So I think Austin Ekeler has a really good chance to do what he did last year. He's a 200-point player in standard. That cannot be lost, and he is all they have.
PPR, he's even better in PPR.
You can give me a Justin Jackson cheap and all that, and I don't buy into it because I haven't seen him carry a workload.
Probably get him cheap as well.
But I like Austin Ekeler.
Rookie,
so
if you want the rookie as well.
I think you can get him cheaper than 9, and obviously that's what I'd be looking to do with Austin. I wouldn't have to pay a 9 price value for him, but I would put him 9 on my list based on what I think he can do.
No, you tipped him up nicely last year, and if people followed you in on it, then they did pretty well. And they're looking even better now. Dynasty. Right, I've got Aaron Jones at 9.
Yeah, I can understand
he's the potential to be a 3-down back. He scored 18 touchdowns last year. He catches it. He runs it. He's on a pretty good offense. He was running back 3 overall last year. So if you're only having to pay running back 9
now he was on our bowl prediction list last year, and we both on this podcast, you've loved him from 2 years ago.
When he came in the league, we said he was one of our rookies to target late.
Yeah, very tipped as a late round rookie flyer. If you pick that up, then you really reaped the benefits.
Moving round forward. 4 or something in rookie draft, so that's
that was amazing. And then last year we predicted a big breakout, and boy did he deliver on that. 19 touchdowns last year. That was a huge breakout year for him. Arguably could be higher up this list. So the question I would ask you is, I'll be honest, he's not in my top 10 this year. I'm going to explain that in a minute. Why is he not higher up your list? And why isn't he up
because they've signed another running back, and he's on a last year his deal, which is not a bad thing because I think they'll run him into the ground. So, and then maybe save the rookie and Jamal Williams for the future. I don't know, but. I'm happy with taking him at 9. Like I say, if he returns what he did last year, or even probably going to get a bit of a decline in the number of touchdowns because 18, 19 isn't. But even if he gets 10 and a load of yards, you'd still be pretty good numbers, wouldn't you? So,
my only thing about him is what puts me off a little bit is it's not what he's capable of doing. I predicted it last year. It's more a question of I don't like the direction the team is moving in, and that's what puts me off a player quite quickly.
But it won't change next year. I don't think it'll change next year. I think it's for the future. Obviously, they've got another quarterback. They've got another running back, but this isn't for this year. They're not going to not play Rodgers, and they're not going to not play Aaron Jones either. So,
well, I think it affects the harmony of the team. I mean, I don't like the direction that they're actually going in. And I'm very concerned for him for this year. I worry, and there is a bigger reason. I'm going to have to share this because it's only fair. I'm sitting here kind of trying to skirt around it. Look, I've kind of alluded to this in a few other videos we've done. There were some players that came back and were worked 1-to-1 to find out their fitness levels. Now, the last year, what I loved about Aaron Jones was, and I don't know what it is with Green Bay running backs, But what I loved about him last year is he came in ripped. He was ready,
Yeah, because he's taking performance-enhancing drugs, wasn't he? He got done for it.
No, but he came in last season physically ready to perform this season. He was ripped. His body was ready. He was, they are regularly tested. I mean, we have to be honest here. Look, NFL players, they do support themselves. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, it's part of the game, and they are caught out and they do pay the price. And I'm not condoning it. It's just what happens. It's the NFL. They to be in that physical shape is more than just physical fitness. Sometimes they take risks. Aaron Jones is one of them. But what has happened is, in this off-season with COVID-19, he is very out of shape and he's in a very, very bad situation 2 weeks ago. And that is coming direct from a guy that works in one-to-one. So I'm very concerned about his mental well-being moving into this season. Why is it Green Bay running backs have this, I call it the Eddie Lacy complex? I got no idea. Now, if he can if he's got time to get back into game shape, so he's got time. If he can show me between now and the start of the season that he's back into that 2019 fitness level that I saw of him, I will definitely be moving him up the board to probably your level, actually. But at the moment, because of these concerns around him, I don't think it's sustainable.
I think that's factored into the price. He shouldn't be there. He shouldn't be here. He could be 4 or 5.
He could.
It's all factored in. I think it's factored in to give you the value. Why is last year's running back 3 going not in your top 10? You've got to get value, haven't you?
I totally agree, but given the risk, that's why, as I say, he's moved down my board and he can only move back up if I see an improvement in him. At the moment, he's outside my top 10. He's only just outside. He's along with Joe Mixon there. Logically, they're 11 and 12 respectively. So I'm not doing either a disservice. Either of them could move up 5 or 6 spots. That's reality of how it could change.
There isn't a lot between a lot of these players, is there, really?
No, they're very good. I mean, look, again, all of these guys, probably a lot of people would say with the exception, a lot of people don't like Eckler, and that's fine. If you don't like him, you don't like him. But with the others on this list, I don't think you can really argue it. You'd be happy with them. They're all good. And that's interesting for this year because normally the running back class, you have 5 or 6 guys that you feel comfortable with, 2 or 3 that you're okay with, and then the rest you're not sure of. This year we've got quite a good list, and these guys are part of that list. They're good players.
Miles Sanders can't be far from the argument either. He's not far from
He's my 13.
like one of their O-line, for the season.
And he's actually a player. He's actually a player that if I believe the team believed in him a bit more, I'll probably put him right the way up there along with Josh Jacobs.
They rotate so much. It's really annoying. And they've got someone so talented as Sanders.
Oh, it frustrates you that you might pay a first-round premium for a player. You might pay a first-round premium price out for a player that isn't used that way. Would be so devastating in football. You just, you know the risks because it's Philadelphia. And you pay the price and you sit there thinking, I don't know whether to play him or not. It's a nightmare.
He did perform consistently last year, even when with splitting time with Boston Scott at the end. He was still putting up big.
Yeah, he was sublime. He was sublime.
And I'd be very happy to have him in my team, even though he's a dirty Eagle. But what can you do?
Yeah, well, you had a few more shares than I did of him last year. I only had one decent share of him. I was very happy to have that share. I have to be honest, but I wish I had a few more shares. So yeah, he was a good player. Anyway, who do you have at 10?
Well, that was Drake. So it's over to you for number 10. So.
Well, I have Nick Chubb at 10.
He's another one that could be 5 or 6.
Now, the interesting thing here with Chubb, right? So this is where I'm letting a bit of the cat out of the bag. I'm never afraid to do it because I think a lot of our drafters kind of do anyway. They kind of know these things. You see, Nick Chubb I love, but Nick Chubb has probably, out of this top 10 list, actually strangely, probably has the biggest red flag injury risk of all of them, actually, because it's Cleveland, they're behind in games, his bullish running style, it really is a worry. Now, he plays cavalier. I love that.
I love Chubb. I think his negative is Kareem Hunt.
Oh, well, I'm coming to that.
He's another top 10 running back if he has a starting job.
I'm coming to that, right? So, if I had to say, what would I prefer to do? Now, see, I would love to own Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. The issue is that you can't really get both because Kareem Hunt's value is still so considered. A lot of people still draft him high, and he will definitely go in our leagues, which is unusual. In our leagues, it's unusual. In other leagues, maybe round 7 and 8, but in our league, he'll go round 5. So that gives, because they're 16-man leagues, so that gives you an idea. To try and own the set requires a lot of value. You're not going to do it. You can't afford it. So you'll get one or the other, not both. And if you take Kareem Hunt, you know that Chubb starts. So it's a question of you're taking him as a speculative pick down the line when things break down. It's very interesting. Nick Chubb is a great player, but can he stay healthy? And that is
if Kareem Hunt weren't there, Chubb might be my 5 or 6.
Oh,
but he is there, and they're not that good, are they, the Browns yet?
No, they're not. And, again, the game scripts don't really favour him. That's why he's at 10. But I do love the talent, the breakaway speed. It's hard not to...
Oh, absolutely great player.
It's hard not to...
minutiae of details that separate, and it could change. It could all change.
I'd love to own Nick Chubb and Kareem. I'd love to own Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, but, it's just not going to happen. So you kind of have to own one or the other. The truth is, if I can't get Nick Chubb, I really do like to get some shares of Kareem Hunt if I could. But I think, again, the price is going to be quite high. It's going to be hard to get them. But I'd like to get some.
Right.
I do.
Well, there you go. You've heard our current list from... I mean, this might change as we hit the end of the season and we get injuries and people get traded potentially, or get COVID. You don't know what's going to happen really. And
absolutely.
We've already seen Zeke's had COVID, but I guess he can't get it again. So that limits his injury.
You end on a good point, worth noting. If you wanted a running back in the top 5 that could be number 1 based on lots of different factors, Ezekiel Elliott, because he's already had COVID-19, maybe it's survival of the fittest. Who knows? So he could be the guy.
Well, he can't get it again. Is what I think. So you're not going to be. You'd have to miss 2 or 3 weeks if you got COVID mid-season.
You would absolutely. And think about.
You can't get it. It's a weird point to make, but
well, it's a true one. And if it goes into a football facility, so if one player, because they are going to be bubbled, obviously as a bubble, but if one player gets it during the season, the odds are other players will catch it too, because that's the nature of the team bubbles. So it is a massive thing to consider. There's a lot to worry about this year.
Yeah, God, it's going to be a weird season. Let's hope it is a full season and a proper season, because
I think it will be.
We all need it. We all want to watch it.
I think it will be, but it'll be very wild.
I'm interested to hear A, what they think of our picks, and B, who they had. Have we missed anyone glaring? Who should Miles Sanders be in there? Should Nick Chubb be definitely in there? Higher,
yeah.
There'll be. Who don't you like? Is there anyone big that you would leave out? It's always interesting to hear people's opinion. We could discuss football all day and often do, but we want to hear from you. If you've enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more. And we'll see you on the next one.
See you then.